All right, so today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to park discreetly when you're parking somewhere overnight in your camper van or mobile base camp, as we like to refer to it at DIY Camper Build, and to make sure that you have no problem with authorities, and that you just obviously respect this, the space or the neighborhood or the area that you're going to be in. Okay, because that's what we're all about here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys 4 tips. Okay, and these are tips that I've talked about in other videos, like the one that I did saying why, or discussing the topic of why you guys are making van life more difficult for yourselves. So do check that out. I'm going to leave some links in the description. But starting with point number 1, which I have talked about before, that's just going to be the overall aesthetic of your vehicle. So obviously, if you're coming in with windows, not the ones in your, in your cabin, the ones in, the back compartment of your van, like on the back doors, on the side. If you have some sort of like flamboyant roof rack, with the solar panels and like all sorts of crazy stuff, then obviously you're going to be drawing attention to yourself. And although there's nothing legally, in most jurisdictions anyways, I would say like perhaps like 99% of them, it's not illegal to sleep in your vehicle, okay? There's nothing against those laws. I mean, unless you're violating a specific bylaw to a specific region that you're in, or that you're just, not following parking regulations, well, you'll be fine. You're completely allowed to stay the night as long as you're not disturbing anybody. And if your vehicle looks, okay, this is to finish on tip number 1, if it looks like an RV, even though it isn't, but if it's classified as one, then that's even worse, because then you can't technically park it in a lot of places. So one of the reasons I don't recommend registering your camper van as an RV, but assuming it's not, but it looks like one, they'll assume it is. And even if you can sort it out with whoever's knocking at your door at 2 a.m., you'd rather not. Okay, so now we're going to move on to tip number 2, and that's going to be specifically where you're going to be parking. So obviously, I've already made a video talking about the 2 main categories of spots where you're always going to find parking, overnight parking, no matter what, even in major cities. And if you're not going to be following those instructions, it's probably because you're working on a job and you want to be close to a specific location, or maybe you're camping and vacationing, and you want to be close to a specific spot that you want to check out the next day. Okay, so if you're not following the guidelines in the other video that I made, it's probably because of that. And if it is, completely understandable. And it's understandable why you might think residential areas are a good space to park, and they are for the most part. I use them all the time, especially when the shoots I have are like literally at somebody's house, or like the production company rents a house for a specific set of scenes. Like a lot of times it's going to happen where there are homes, apartments, or whatever. So I want to be as close to that as possible. So the rule with this, and we're going to get into tip number 4, because this is a thing that's going to definitely help you. It's like common wisdom at this point in the van life community. But to finish on tip number 3, don't park right in front of someone's house. Like, even if it's legal, even if you're not disturbing anybody, you're not doing anything wrong, like you might still get like a paranoid old lady that might call the cops because they see like a strange vehicle outside their place, which, could be understandable, especially if you look like a white government van, or even worse, like a completely black painted government looking van. They might think you're a spy or something, or even worse, a kidnapper. So the idea is to, like, residential neighborhoods usually have spots where there's, they're not in visual line of sight of any houses or fronts of houses. So those are usually better. Okay, so just look around, drive around a little bit, and you could still be reasonably close to wherever it is you want to be. Okay, so that wasn't tip number 2, actually. That wasn't tip number 3. That was tip number 2. Tip number 3, okay, it's going to be to just be respectful and go there to sleep. Okay, don't go there to, like, pull out your awning, a foldable chair, and to make yourself a tea, or even worse, to cook yourself a meal in front of other people's houses or anywhere really. It's not always residential areas. Sometimes it's just like, crowded areas, and people are going to be looking at you. And at some point, especially if it's late at night, they might ask questions. So you don't want to do that. Keep it clean, keep it professional. Don't litter, don't make too much noise. Just keep to yourself. And this is coming up with the last tip that I foreshadowed before. And it's basically arrive there late. You're there to sleep. You're not there to camp. You're not there to party. You're just there to sleep. So arrive late. I would say usually around 10 p.m. Try to leave early. And if you do that, nobody's going to notice you, and you leave without a trace. You're going to work the next day, or maybe you leave the vehicle there because you're working nearby. Whatever it is, just do it respectful manner and arrive late. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Those were the 4 tips that will help you, camp overnight or park overnight discreetly, not draw any unnecessary attention to yourself, and reduce your stress while you're on the road.
All right, guys, that's it for this one. If you're building something that's meant to last, whether it's a camper van, a business, or just a better way of living, I'm glad you're here. Everything I use, recommend, or offer is linked in the description. Take what works, build your own blueprint, and I'll see you in the next one.